All right. Good morning. Good morning. How you doing? I'm going to do a video now just on this project explaining my milling process. This would be the same for you, if you're going to build a project. I spent the last couple days selecting the lumber, getting it here, and beginning this whole milling process. What you see here is all the lumber. It's all been face jointed, edged, and resawn, and I'm going to explain that those terms to you and kind of show you how I do it. I took some pictures along the way that I'll insert in this video as we go. I designed this apron, by the way. This is a woodworker's apron. I had a nice lady make it for me, and she sent me the pattern for it. Just the way these pockets are designed, with them being tight here and angled, I don't get any sawdust in them when I'm using the table saw. Pencils slotted because they get shorter as you use them, and I want to be able to grab a pencil with a fresh point on it and not lose time sometimes. Place to put the tape measure, real simple. But this back strap design is what's the most comfortable, that system. But anyhow, when you're selecting your wood at the lumber yard, you want to cite that, and you want to try to find boards that have the least amount of imperfections, and you're trying to select them you're trying to guesstimate in a way what the color is going to be. I'm buying everything in the rough, so it's hard to see. You could bring a scraper with you and scrape those boards down, but if you're buying boards that are pretty long, you can't always see it all. Having said that, I got the lumber. The lumber for this particular project was just under $1,000, so this is not inexpensive to do. Once you get it here, you got to do your math on the project. This thing is going to have the top to this is going to be something like that. There's going to be a field and with a frame around it. Now, the table parameters are 42 inches. Right? I'm not going to go bigger than that. So it's going to be approximately 42 inches to the widest parts, right? With that little bit of a bow. The math works out for me where the field, each one of those boards is going to be 8.5 inches wide, approximately. And then the frame parts are going to be 4 inches, approximately. So I selected my wood thinking about that. I'll explain that more as I show you these parts as we're working them. Because you want to have some consistency with different details in the project. Now, one of the things I had to do with the wide boards I bought boards that were over 10 inches wide, some of them 11.5 inches, so 10 to 11.5 inches wide, and there was a little sapwood there on the edges, so it's not like you straight line one side and then you cut it to the width. And when you straight line, you need a long straight edge because your board might have a curve to it. You want to go long point to long point. I've explained this in other videos, but that's your first step, is cutting things to rough length. Then you go to the table saw. You rip your material and you're eyeballing the grain. You want to think about what the end result's going to be with each board. Just briefly, if you were to look at old furniture, mission style furniture, let's say, Roycroft, things like that. A lot of the times, there's a big builder I can't think of off the top of my head, but a lot of times you look at those pieces, it'll be like quarter sawn oak. And when you look at the tops, there was zero thought put into laying those boards out for aesthetics. Right? So they weren't looking at the grain, trying to if I had a bunch of boards, I'm going to look at that grain for a while, I'm going to move the boards around, I'm going to look at where the points are in the grain, if there are that. If it's vertical grain, it's going to all be in the same direction, but still, little color variance. Sometimes boards have a tighter grain, a little thicker grain. I'm going to lay them out so it's visually, aesthetically pleasing when you look at that. Most people don't even think about that. So I think about that. So when I'm in the first milling process, I'm cutting those boards so that I can have maybe a nice flame to the board that's symmetrical or centered on that particular board. Or like for the frame parts that go around, I picked one board, I cut that in half, and I cut it in half, I ripped it in half in a way so that those 4 frame pieces, they're going to look, I'm pretty sure it's going to look real cool when it's done. So I do all that, and then the next step, and let me insert a couple pictures there for you. So the next step after you do the initial milling, again, cutting things to rough length and ripping them on the table saw, is face joining. Okay, that's here on this machine. It's my Inca 570 jointer planer. Okay, and you run that board through until one side is perfectly flat. Okay, now, nice and smooth that is, and it's flat. And then you're going to take another edge, and you're going to take this and you're going to run it up against the fence like this. You're going to make sure that this is perfectly 90 degrees, perfectly straight and exactly 90 degrees. And that's important so that when you bring it over to the bandsaw, let me insert a couple pictures there. Again, as I was saying, you want that to be at perfectly 90 degrees, because when I'm going to bring it over here, I'm going to resaw it. It's going to be up against this table and this fence. And this blade is perfect set to this fence. So when I run that board through, I'm going to get a board that's dimensionally pretty accurate. And the reason I do this is because it saves time when I go to do the thickness planing. A lot of guys don't have a bandsaw that can do the resawing, and resawing is a huge time saver, and it helps you with the wear on your blades, on your joiner planer, and everything. So if you can remove the bulk of that material and now have all these boards here dimensioned properly, it's just going to make your thickness planing a lot easier. Now these sat overnight, guaranteed. By the way, when you're done with that, that's what you're going to get. You're going to have this rough sawn side. Hoping that this light here is giving you, probably making me look like hell. What else is new? But that's what you end up with. Okay. Now, these have sat overnight. Guaranteed, every one of these is moved a little bit. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to take each one of these boards, I'm going to eyeball it and just double check, kind of see what's going on. Sometimes you can see it move the next day. All right, sorry if I'm out of frame there. Sometimes, like the next day, you can automatically see what happened. But what I'll do is I'll take whichever side. Now, if it turns out I want to mill this side next, so basically we're face joining all over again. I don't have to put any lines on this because I can see what's happening. But if I'm doing it on the smooth side, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pencil and I'm just going to draw a bunch of lines across this face. And I'm going to do this for you in this video. So I'll draw a bunch of lines across his face. I'll turn the machine on. I'll show you this with the lines on it. And then I'll run it. I'll do a pass for you. And you're going to be able to see, as those blades remove material, how this board changed overnight. Sometimes I'll get a little twist. Sometimes there'll be a little bow to it. So I got to run it through there a couple times to make it perfectly flat again. And then it typically won't move anymore. Right? And after that point, then we could thickness plane everything. And doing this process over the course of a couple days will ensure that your boards don't move. I mentioned this guy the other day in a video, this Peterson Antiques guy. And I went to his house to possibly do a job. This is a guy, he makes tables. Some of them are tens of thousands of dollars. He had me come over to talk about doing a bunch of custom work for his wife. But then he tried to lowball me on everything. So I didn't work for him. When we were talking, having our meeting, I put my hand on his dining room table and the whole table moved. And I went like this. He goes, "Oh yeah, tables do that." I said, "My tables don't do that." And the wife said, "Yeah, we have a problem sometimes with people calling us complaining because their tables have warped." Well, their tables warped because the guys they got doing it, and this guy, who's been doing it since 1986, just doesn't know how to mill lumber properly. And I told him how to do it. And I said, for your business, man, you need to have one guy that you can move up and then bring in a new guy. But your low tier guy, his job, you teach him how to do it properly, and his job is all day long, all he does is mill lumber. And if you could get it to this state where it's face joined, ripped, straight lined, and 90 degrees on an edge, and resawn, if you just did that and stored your lumber in that manner, then when your guy comes with a piece of paper saying, I got to make this table number 375, okay, I got the plans for this table, I know what I'm doing, let me select this wood. Now all he's got to do now is do a quick face join and start thickness planing and glue that stuff together, and now that table will remain stable. But your table, if your table has warped, it's because they didn't slow down. They rushed it. They didn't take the time to mill those boards and let them stabilize overnight before they did their glue up. That's a big part of it. The other thing is when you look at your end grain, sometimes you'll see on here, there'll be like a major cup in the ends of these boards. All right, so I don't know if you can see it on camera, but like on this board here, the grain is going this way, right? This one here is going this way, and it is kind of nice if when you're gluing up, you can have one board where the grain goes this way and the next board goes this way, and the next one goes that way. That tends to help things from keeping a table from wanting to cup all the way. On this table, it's going to be pretty small and it's going to be pretty thick wood. In the end, I think the finish probably going to be around 1.25 inches or so thickness on that top. I might do a little trick, I haven't decided yet, where on the edge it'll even look thinner because I may chamfer the bottom edge of that. I think I will. But I'm not too concerned about that top moving because it's a square and it's kind of tiny. But when you're making something that's a lot taller and a lot longer, then that's a whole other thing to consider. So let me get to work here, and I'll show you a couple things along the way. And like I said, I'll insert some pictures that I've been taking over the last couple days. And let's get this going. We're going to have rain here coming in tonight, which could also change this, which is going to slow me down. So moisture is a thing. Even after you've milled these and they're perfectly stable, if you have some major change in the weather, like this is an open air shop, it's pretty dry in Southern California most of the time, but it's the winter time here, so we get rain. And I'm going to mill these, but I'm going to wait probably on the gluing process until the rain stops, but that might be a little while. It's going to kind of slow me down. So I'll get these pretty correct now, and then I'll just check them at the end of the week and beginning of next week and make sure they didn't move. If they moved, I got to face join them and thickness plane them again. But I'm just this machine is so fine. It's the only negative to this joiner planer. It's not a contractor grade, it's a furniture grade machine. So what that means is it's very precise. You can't take a full 1/16 of an inch off in a pass with hardwood. It's just not designed for that. So you're just taking 64ths of an inch off, 32nds of an inch off for each pass. Like I can mill these things and get them perfect, and I can make them so they're like 5/16 of an inch exactly, and then I can redo them on here, do a face joint and plane it again, and still maybe not even have removed the full 1/16. Still keep it to where it's 1.25 inches. It's amazing. It's amazing. But it's important to do that because for a bunch of reasons. And the main one is the reason you buy for quality furniture. Sorry, I'm so unprofessional with this. You can buy boards that are already dimensioned. There's a lot of people, they'll call themselves furniture makers, and they're going to go to Home Depot or something, or House of Hardwoods or some other place. They're going to buy these boards, and then they're just going to start constructing something. And they're going to spend a crap ton of time sanding these glue ups that they do. Because when you buy a 1x3 or 1x8 or 2x10 or whatever it is, and I'm talking more in like hardwoods, there's still a plus minus that's acceptable of several 32nds of an inch or 64ths of an inch or 1/16 of an inch or an 1/8 inch. And usually it'll tell you. What that means is you buy 10 boards, they can all be different thicknesses. So, and you're paying for that. It's called S4S, where all four sides are milled already. If you buy in the rough, you save time. You're going to mill it, and when you're done milling it, all the pieces are exactly the same. So when you do your glue up, there shouldn't be any variation at those seams. There could always be a little bit if you didn't get it exactly right, but you can scrape that smooth, sand it, never know the difference. If you're going to buy lumber that's already dimensioned, S4S, and they're all different thicknesses, you still have to go to the machine and work it. So you're paying for something that was already done that you now have to waste your time on and do anyhow. So to me, it doesn't make sense. Save the money, buy it in the rough. But of course, you need the machines and this knowledge that I'm giving you. I didn't even get into how to mill the wood and go in the direction with the grain and everything else. I did that in another video. I think it's along the lines of how to mill lumber for heirloom quality furniture. If I think of it, I'll remember to put that link in the bottom of this video. So let me hope this is okay for you guys. You're getting something out of it. I'm going to get back to work now. Stay tuned. Now we'll just take this board here first. I already put lines on it, but I'll put some more. You want to feel this board with your paws here. And I'm feeling for the grain. And this, unfortunately, with this board, I'm getting it in both directions. It's not as bad this way. So when I run my hands over, I can feel it catching on these little fibers. If I go this way, it's a little bit less. It's smoother that way. That means, you know, this face is down and this is the end I'm going to start with. I'm going to run it through the machine, starting with that end through the machine. I'll get less tear out that way. Let's hope. So this is, bear with me on this because this is going to be loud, this machine. I don't like doing this because it's kind of loud for you guys when you're at home. But I'll just do one quick pass for you and then show the camera. Board was actually pretty flat, didn't move too much, which makes sense because it's pretty thick. But I can see more lines here. So this will take a couple more passes. And then right here, I don't know if you can see this in the light on camera, you can see a couple little grooves here in the boards. That's what I demonstrated the other day. I was talking about how to adjust the blades to erase that. So I'm going to adjust the blades real quick, and I'm going to keep doing this. What I'll do is, if I see a board that's a little bit more twisted, I'll do another quick shot for you guys to show it more dramatically. Alright, I'm going to shift these blades real quick. I did this in a video the other day. It's a Tersa head cutter. There's these two blocks that hold the blades. So what I'm doing is I'm shifting each one in a different direction. And what that'll do is it'll erase the little marks that you see in those boards. Because they no longer line up. So like if you get like a little, I mean, these aren't like deep nicks, obviously, but if you get one in this blade, it's going to be in all three in the exact same spot. So by just shifting these around, then they no longer line up. So technically, they're erasing each other. So if you keep doing that, you'll get a better finish on your boards. And then keep in mind, there's a whole other side of the blade on the underside of this. So I can flip them around. I have a whole new set to use. That's just how the Inca works. Now, I just want to quickly show you something here. So this was the side that I milled yesterday. But when I sighted it, it was bowing this way. So this was the rough side. I just went face join that side now. When I get a side and I get it right, I'll put 3 X's on it. If I put 1 or 2 X's, that's telling me it's pretty good, but I have to come back to it. 3 X's tells me it's right. Now this was the edge that was 90 degrees, perfect, to the side I faced yesterday. If I put my square on it, it's still perfect. Can't see any light coming through there. But with this side, I just tested it, it was off, but I'll have to double check this here. On this side, I can move the square just a hair. So that's telling me I'm going to have to rejoin this edge to this for 90 degrees. And then I'll put my X's on that. And then I'll know that I can put that edge against the fence on the table saw when I do a final rip to the width I want this. There's 4 of these. This is the framing rail on the tabletop. All 4 of these will go through the thickness planer, be exactly the same thickness once all this preliminary work is done. You can see what I did here. You've got the center of the board is this edge, and this is the outer edge. And look how beautiful that grain is on the end there. It's just going to look so nice, especially once it gets some finish on it. Okay, I just wanted to show you guys this. I'm milling this board here. And this was the part I milled yesterday. You see this patch here, which we'll get taken care of. Turns out this board was doing this a little bit, so now I'm milling this side. And you can see there's a rough patch here, right? So the board, I'm not sure if this is the board that'll be the most work, but the board that you end up doing the most work on is the board that's going to determine the final thickness of the project, right? Or the part. Like this is part of the top. Because I have to keep milling this until I get one of these sides real nice. And I think I would prefer this side because it doesn't have any light rips on the edges. This one does. It gets a little light here and here. Now, there's plaid shirts you'll see people wear. They call it ombre plaid, where there's this really cool feathering kind of the colors. That does look good when you glue these things up. If it goes light, you know, dark with a light to dark and it fades like that, it can look really beautiful. On this table, I'm going to try to make the top more consistent. So I would prefer if I can make this part, this side here, up. But again, I have to mill this quite a few more times. I don't know if it's reading on camera. I got to get all this flat here. And then one other thing I'll show you, and then I'll pretty much be the end of this video, I think. If you are curious about, how do I show this to you? Let's just do it here real quick. Let's say you've been milling your boards and you're eyeballing them, and you're not sure. You know, you're looking at it, you're like, I don't know, it looks like it might still have a bow to it or something. Take one of the other boards that's got a nice straight edge, you know it's straight, and place it up here, and then eyeball it. You do it with the light behind you, you can see if there's any light coming through here. If it's perfectly flat, you know it's good. You should be doing that when you're doing your edges as well. Take the finished edges that you just milled, put them up against each other, try to get them to the light behind it, and it'll tell you if your machine's dialed correct as well, right? So if I can see light in the center, then it's, you know, each board is doing this. Okay? If I see light on the ends, boards are doing this. If you find that you do a few passes with that and it hasn't changed, a lot of times your machine's out of whack. So you have to adjust your in-feed and out-feed tables. That's a whole other process. I pretty regularly adjust this thing, and I do move it around a lot. Tool setup is your #1 thing. Like, that's very time consuming. So you want to get your machine set correct. You have to recalibrate them from time to time. Before you start using them, set it, check it with your squares and levels and whatever else you're using, and then run some wood through it and check that wood to make sure it's accurate. And you got to keep doing that till you get it right. My bandsaw's a pain. I mean, it's a thing, man. Once you dial it, you got to dial it. And I will say, when it comes to squares, I bought this Bridge City Tools square decades ago. It's not accurate. Very expensive tool. I found it again, so I pulled it out. But this Starrett square is more accurate. Now, when I say this is inaccurate, it's inaccurate by a hair. A hair. If I put these on something, it's 90 degrees. I put this one. Sometimes it reads pretty good. Most of the time, I can just see just the slightest bit of light coming through. If I put this on a straight edge, the way you check it is you put this here. You need a super sharp point. None of these are sharp. I got to sharpen a pencil. Just talked about that. But anyhow, the way you do is let me see if I can show you this so you guys know. This is just testing your square. Again, this is for a lot of you guys who do this stuff for a living. This is your moment of the day. But you got a straight line here. You're going to put a line this way. And you're going to flip this around. You're going to try to match that. And you're going to put, I can see it already. It's off. Right now I can see it. I'm tight to the line here and there's a gap here. All right. So Bridge City Tools, a lot of money for this. And it came to me inaccurate. I never even sent it back to them. I just put it back. I was using this little straight edge right here for different things. And I kept this in a box. Or in a drawer of my toolbox for years. So with this one here, yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. So this square is perfect. It's kind of a bummer. I don't remember. I think this thing was pretty expensive at the time. This could have been like $160 or something. I don't remember. Maybe I'm way off on that. But it was pretty costly, and I didn't even call them to try to send it back to them or anything. But if anybody knows anybody at Bridge City Tools, you guys want to correct this for me. And you know what? That's it for now. I'm done. I'm not going to do the rest of this. There's no more video. It's going to be a long enough video as it is. So have a good day. Hope you guys learned something. It's a whole series. I don't think I'm going to number them or anything. But if I were to number them, this is number 2. Preliminary milling, with the thickness planing and everything. I don't know what I'm going to call this one, but you saw it. You just watched it. Hope you enjoyed it. Be good to one another. Catch you in the next one. All right, so this is all ready to go. It's all been face joined perfect on one side again, and I'll be thickness planing next. I wanted to mention this is a pedestal table. You'll see these moving. This side's flat, but this side has a hump to it. All right, so I'll remove that. But on a pedestal table, one of the things you want to keep in mind is you don't want your tabletop so thick that it wants to make it tippy. So there's a balance here with the base. So I'm using thicker material on the base cross members. And on this top, to be honest with you, I'd like to try to make it as thin as possible, but I still like my things to be substantial. In the end, I think this top is going to end up being around 1.25 inches, give or take 1/16 of an inch, which should be great. You'd probably be better off making more like 1 inch, all right? So we'll just see how it works. I said to my client the other day, I was like, 1.25 inch thick maple, or excuse me, walnut, that'll stop a bullet. He's like, well, hopefully it won't come to that. But maybe I'll prove that to you later. Okay, that's it. Now I'm signing off. Once again, have a great day. Thanks for being here. Hope this is good for somebody. Hope you guys enjoy this sort of thing. Bye.